We all remember when we got our first Pokemon game, the game that became our first ever adventure in the world of Pokemon. For me, my first adventure began all the way back in Pokemon Platinum, and me seeing the trailer all the way back in... Oh my god, has it really been 20 years? Oh my god, I'm so old. But I do remember seeing how Pokemon was so much more than just an anime and a card game, so I wanted to play that more than ever. And my nan saw this, and for my birthday, she got me Pokemon Platinum. Because of her, I was able to start my first ever adventure in Pokemon. This video is dedicated to relive that first adventure, and to my nan, who started me on this long, beautiful road of Pokemon. It all started with meeting Professor Rowan, who introduced me to the Pokemon world and to my rival, where I already knew this character as Barry from the anime, and decided to name him as such. And much like his anime counterpart, he was full of energy, with him breaking into my room and dragging me along with him in order to get our first Pokemon. However, before we could even get into the tall grass, we were stopped by none other than Professor Rowan himself, who kinda gave us a long lecture about how unsafe that was. However, he saw how much we loved Pokemon and decided to offer us our own starter. Back in my first adventure, the choice was never tough. Even today, it still isn't, with that Pokemon being Chimchar. I have always loved this Pokemon for its looks and its story in the anime, with its start being abused by Paul to becoming one of Ash's strongest Pokemon. Never in my life will I ever regret picking this Pokemon as my first ever partner. Once we picked our starters, Barry wanted to waste no time in getting into our first battle, with me and Chimchar going in ready to win it. Okay then, not the outcome I was expecting, but I'm sure this is just a fluke, and none of the other battles are going to be this challenging. Right? After recovering from that loss, Barry wanted me to come with him to the lake for us to try and catch a legendary Pokemon for the professor in order to thank him. But when we arrived, all we found was a strange guy looking out at the lake. Now, even back then, I knew the rules of anime. If a character has an odd or standout hairstyle, then it's most likely they are important to the story. But with the strange man now left, we soon realized we didn't have any Pokeballs to do anything. So we decided to race over to the professor's lab in order to get a Pokédex and Pokeballs, meaning I could start finally getting my own team. I instantly threw myself into the grass in order to catch a Starly. This little bird was a Pokemon I fell in love with straight away, and as it evolved, it just got better, and still remains one of my favorite regional bird evolution lines. I also decided to catch Shinx, which is a cute Pokemon, I won't deny that, but as I'm older, I've decided to go for better and cooler looking electric type Pokemon. With the new members now caught, I got into Jubilife City to meet up with Dawn, and also run into Looker, a character I'm always happy to see in Pokemon games, even with his strange behavior. And after what is always a strange encounter with Looker, I left the city where Barry was waiting for me to have another Pokemon battle. But this time, my team was able to deal with his Pokemon so much easier. With Barry back in his box, I made my way over to the city of my first major battle, Orberg City, home of the first gym leader. When I first did this gym, I had no idea about type matchups, and the battle went poorly. So this time around, I knew to train up the team and get everyone involved, with all three, actually two of them, looking absolutely amazing. With the team now prepared, I challenged the gym leader Rock to battle, with Monferno taking the lead and the plan to spam Mach Punch on his whole team. And that plan worked out fine with taking out Rock's Geodude and his Onix. However, Cranidos was tougher than I thought, and it survived a Mach Punch, and then it retaliated back with Headbutt that KO'd Monferno. My other two Pokemon were gonna struggle against rock types, but I didn't really have many options. So I sent in Staravia to get off an Intimidate and lower Cranidos' attack, and thanks to that, it managed to survive a Headbutt and finish it off with a Wing Attack and Quick Attack. The first gym badge was now mine. To get to the next gym, I had to backtrack through Jubilife City, where I found the Professor and Dawn getting harassed by two grunts, saying they were a part of Team Galactic. Now, Team Galactic is one of my favorite evil teams in all the Pokemon games, but there is one failure they have, and it's the look of their grunts. No matter how good your evil plan is, if your haircut looks like this, then I'm not gonna take you that seriously. Anyway, me and Dawn worked together to defeat the two grunts, and then I chased them up to Fluorescence Town to find out they took over the local Windworks. I had to deal with a couple of grunts around the town in order to get the key for the Windworks and then burst in so that I could challenge Commander Mars. For Zubat was easy work for Luxio and it went down instantly, but Perugly managed to use Fake Out and Feint Attack to leave Luxio on low health. I knew I wanted a clean switch to Monferno, so I decided to just sack the HM Slave Bidoof if I had on hand to take the fall. That way I could switch into Monferno and end the battle with Mach Punch and freeing the Windworks. Having saved the Windworks, I wound up in Eterna Forest and met a young trainer named Cheryl, where as a kid I was convinced she was a ghost. I mean, she looked important to the story, but then I never saw her again after helping her through the forest. This was also because this was the same forest as that haunted mansion, so that didn't really help me in my conspiracy. Oh, and I also caught a Budew. Why? I don't actually remember. When doing this section, to be honest, I was really ill and I probably just wasn't paying attention, but I have one now and you're probably never going to see it again. Either way, I finally got into Eterna City and challenged the Eterna City gym leader Gardenia, with Staravia taking the lead and it taking out Turtwig with a wing attack. But when her Charon came out, I had a bit of trouble as it was able to survive attacks and it kept healing itself with Leech Seed and healing items. It took a bit of work, but it finally went down. But Staravia didn't have much health left, so I sent in Monferno to take on her Rose Raid and finish it with a couple of Flame Wheels, earning me the second gym badge. But now I couldn't go any further as I needed the bike from the bike shop owner to get onto the cycling road. But for some reason he was being held hostage in the Galactic building, so I had to infiltrate the base, make my way up the building and get to him. But all that was stopped when I was facing this scientist, where he swept my whole team. I have no idea what happened. Not once in my life have I ever struggled against this scientist, and what's worse is I took the wrong way. I don't know why. I've done this game so many times. Now taking the right way, I was ready to face Commander Juniper, where once again Luxio was able to handle the Zubat, but her Skuntank was a different story. Luxio only managed to get off one spark before going down to a crit Night Slash, and thanks to my ill brain, I sent him Inferno and misclicked Flame Wheel rather than Mach Punch, which did nothing and then cost me Monferno. I sent in Staravia, where I decided to use Double Team to reduce my chances of getting hit. Not an honorable way to win, I admit, but it let me heal stall Staravia and then chip away at the Skuntank until it went down. I don't fully remember this fight in my first adventure, but I know for a fact it was never this tough. Now that the bike shop owner was free, I was now able to get a bike and also meet a trainer named Cynthia who entrusted me with a Pokemon egg, where I hatched it and revealed to be a Togepi. The new Pokemon didn't end there, however, as now I was able to get into Wayward Cave in order to catch a Gibble, where as a kid, I didn't even know the terrifying power this little guy held. But when I was younger, I didn't think anything. I just thought he was cute. And whilst training up the team, Togepi and Gibble evolved into Togetic and Gabite, which was perfect timing as I was about to face Fantina. My first gym battle with her will forever live in my mind, as she managed to KO my entire team, and the only reason I won was because of a bee barrel I had on hand, and it hitting all of its rollouts. This time around, I was more prepared, with Monferno starting the battle, taking out her Duskull. But then we tried to deal with Haunter, it put Monferno to sleep and then KO'd it with multiple Shadow Claws. I decided to send in Gabite to quickly finish it off with Dragon Rage, and then her final Pokemon was Miss Magius, where Gabite could only get off one Dragon Rage before going down. Staravia was also only able to get off one attack before Miss Magius KO'd it. However, Luxio came in and was able to take the hit and finish the battle with a single bite. I ran into Barry whilst leaving the city, but my team simply slapped his, and then we got into Veilstone City to take on Maylene. I opened the battle with Staravia, where it O-code her Meditite. Machoke on the other hand was able to survive an Aerial Ace and then finish off Staravia with Rock Tomb. Monferno was able to come in and finish off the Machoke with a Flame Wheel, but when her Lucario came in and survived a Flame Wheel, it finished off Monferno. I would have been stressing about this, but Gabite just came in and ended the whole battle with Dragon Rage. And with the 4th gym badge, I wasted no time in getting into Pastoria City, home of the 5th gym. But whilst training up the team, Luxio, Staravia, and Monferno all evolved into their final stages. And this time, all 3 of them look absolutely amazing. And with the team now upgraded, I challenged Crasher Wade. This time, I decided to open up the battle with Roselia to set up Toxic Spikes, but Wake's Gyarados did not make that easy for me, with it instantly getting a crit. I now had to spend time in the battle healing up Roselia until I felt safe enough to get off a second Toxic Spikes. I then switched into Togetic so that I could get a clean switch to Luxray and heal up Roselia, and when Togetic finally went down, Luxray came into Thunderfang, but it missed. So I had to heal up Luxray, and whilst doing that, Wake decided to switch into Quagsire. I predicted a ground type move, so I switched in Staraptor, and after some chip damage and help from the poison, Quagsire finally went down. Wake's Floatzel came in, but went down to Luxray's Thunderfang, and Gyarados was now back out, and got another crit, killing Luxray. I sent in Staraptor to use its Intimidate, but after one brine, Staraptor was now out. So, fearing that I may lose, I sent in Gabite to Dragon Rage the problem away. 3 gyms now that Dragon Rage has saved me. I didn't think it would be this good this late in the game, but hey, I'm not complaining. However, things suddenly escalate with Barry coming over to grab me and Wake, saying that somebody had a bomb in the Great Marsh. And right before we got in, a grunt came out stating that the bomb was just a test and then ran off. I went after him and then beat him in battle, only for him to get away, I guess? But then Cynthia came up to me and asked to make a delivery. I'll be honest, I think they just didn't know how to do a clean transition into the next part of the story and had this mess. I don't get it either. Either way, I got into Celestial Town and I had to stop another galactic grunt from sending off a galactic bomb, and then delivered Cynthia's parcel. I decided to check out the ruins in the town and learn about the legendary Lake Guardians. But that mysterious man from the lake approached me. He called himself Cyrus and said he was the leader of Team Galactic. He revealed his team's plans to destroy our current world and then rebuild a new one in his image. And because of this world's rules, if you disagree with someone, then you must defeat them in Pokemon battle. And Luxray and Staraptor picked by his team entirely. After Cyrus left, I ran into Cynthia, who passed me the HM for Surf, which helped me get into Canalave City. And before heading right to the gym, I got a boat to Iron Island, not just to get the HM for Strength, but to also get a Shiny Stone, which I finally used to evolve Togetic into Togekiss, and also to get the TM for Flamethrower for Infernape, where this was the best decision to do, as thanks to it, I was able to challenge Byron, and Infernape was able to one-shot each of his Pokemon. But this is where things started to take a turn. And it all started with the professor gathering me, Barry, and Dawn to talk about the uprising of Team Galactic and the threat they presented. We figured out they wanted the 3 Lake Guardians to do something, so we started talking about who would guard where. But suddenly, a sudden explosion shook the region, and it was reported that a bomb had gone off at the lake I was meant to guard. So I raced off to the lake to find galactic grunts everywhere, and in the center of it all was Commander Saturn, who was no issue for me to handle, but I was still too late to save Azelf. Saturn mentioned that Mars was also attacking one of the lakes, so I raced over to help Dawn take on Mars. Her Golbat was able to crit Infernape, taking him out, and then Luxray finished it off with Thunderfang. Then with Bronzor, it got not 1, not 2, but 3 flinches in a row, and the odds of that are... oh, wow. Nice work, Luxray. And then came out her Pargly, which was OHKO'd by Staraptor's close combat. With 2 of the lake's attacks and its guardians captured, this just left Barry to defend his lake, so I traversed through the snow in order to assist him. But I couldn't get up to him since I needed the 7th gym badge to use Rock Climb, so I wasted no time in challenging Candace, where I made one of the biggest mistakes ever. I put Infernape up front to sweep the team, where it did OHKO the Sneasel, but when Piloswine came out, I misclicked and used Muck Punch. It then became a horrible domino effect, where her team was just OHKOing each and every one of my team, costing me the battle. So round 2, I made sure to click Flamethrower and OHKO each and every one of her Pokemon, earning me the 7th gym badge. And we will never talk about this ever again. Got it? Good. Moving on from that, I raced over to the lake to go and help Barry, but I arrived too late and already saw Barry defeated by Juniper, and she had already sent the Lake Guardian to their main HQ in Bellstone City. So I got into the city, stormed the base, and got in all the way until I found what looked like to be a cult meeting. This is one of the biggest reasons I love Team Galactic, as they give off all the right villain vibes. I mean, yeah, there is Team Rocket, but they are just a mafia. Team Aqua and Magma would have been really good teams if they could just tell colors apart. Team Plasma's own leader lied to them and their king so that he could just control all Pokemon for himself. And then there's these guys. Team Galactic has one of the best plans, and it isn't just controlling Pokemon for the sake of it, it's actually messing with the powers of gods to remake the world. I kept going until I found Cyrus in his office, where he was still no threat to me or my team, and on his defeat he gave me the Master Ball, where I won't repeat my first adventurous mistake where I used the Master Ball to catch a Golduck. Yeah, I think I'm stupid too. He also said I could free the Lake Trio since he had already used them to make the red chain, and went off to Mount Coronet to enact his plans. I set the Lake Trio free and then raced up Mount Coronet to try and stop Cyrus. On the way, Gabite finally evolved into Garchomp, and this was perfect timing, as when I got to Spear Pillar, Cyrus was getting ready to enact his plan. Juniper and Mars tried to stop me, but Barry came in to help. Or so he thought at least. His Munchlax just kept stockpiling and sleeping for the whole battle, so I was having to take on everything myself, and because of Barry slowing me down, Cyrus had now activated the red chain, and with it caused tears in reality to summon Dialga and Palkia. Under their new master's control, they begun to redesign the world in their new master's image. The Lake Guardians were doing everything they could to try and stop them, but it just wasn't enough, and it seemed Cyrus was gonna win. But that's when everything went dark. A strange dark mass started to appear on the ground, and then 2 red eyes appeared. What followed was a form I could never describe. Cyrus tried to control it, but it was no good, and within a flash, everything went black. I woke up to see a portal where Cyrus once stood, and then Cynthia appeared and explained to me the Pokemon we had just saw was the legendary Pokemon Giratina, and it had taken Cyrus to the Distortion World. We jumped in after them to appear in what looked like to be a world of chaos, with sideways platforms, moving platforms, a forest that just kept changing with every step I took, and even a reverse waterfall. The Distortion World is always going to be a favorite place of mine, as it showed off what Pokemon games could do even for just visuals, and it will forever be amazing to me. After a while traversing through the Distortion World, we found Cyrus, who had come up with a new plan, to use the Distortion World as grounds for his new world. And of course, we couldn't let him do that. So we, and by we I mean I, had to stop him. I opened the battle with Garchomp, who OHKO'd his Houndoom with an Earthquake. Then Infernape was able to knock out Weavile, Luxray was able to KO his Gyarados, and then Togekiss made quick work of his Crobat and Honchkrow. Not the final battle I was looking for, but hey, at least it was now over. Well, not all of it. There was still one more battle to do, and that was to take on the ruler of the Distortion World, Giratina himself. I got into the battle, readied myself, and threw the Master Ball at him. Yeah, there is no way I am actually gonna battle Satan. I'm gonna own Satan. Even if I never use him, he's going in the box and mine forever. But now with all the crazy stuff over, I could finally finish my adventure and get into Sunyshore City to challenge Volkner. And after facing an evil organization and Satan himself, Garchomp didn't even care about Volkner's team and just swallowed it all into an Earthquake, finally getting the final gym badge, which just left me with one final trial, taking on the Elite Four. I did some prep work and added a Floatzel to the team to help get some extra water-type moves on the team and an extra Ice Fang. The team was now ready, and I walked into what would be my final trial. The first member of the Elite Four was Aaron, and he wasn't even much of a challenge as Staraptor, Garchomp, and Togekiss were able to take out each of his Pokemon. The next battle, however, was against Bertha, where things weren't so easy. I sent in Togekiss to try and air/flinch her Wishcash, which worked after a couple of attacks. Then came Floatzel to Ice Fang her Gliscor and Golem, but did go down to her Hippowdon. Garchomp was sent in to finish it off with Dragon Claw, but then came in her Rhyperior, who I didn't think was going to be much of an issue until it used Avalanche, which knocked out Garchomp. I sent in Infernape to do a close combat, but misclicked for the 3rd time in this adventure and picked Muck Punch, which did less damage and gave it a free chance to KO Infernape with Earthquake. Thankfully, Staraptor was able to close combat and knock out the Rhyperior. Elite Four number 3, Flint, was much easier, with Floatzel able to waterfall sweep his entire team, and then be joined by Garchomp to crunch on Elite Four member number 4's whole team. I can never remember this guy's name, but I had finally defeated all of the Elite Four, and this just left one person remaining, the champion themselves. I took a deep breath and walked in to see Cynthia. This was the moment that would define everything for me, to see if I could overcome the strongest trainer in all of Sinnoh. So now, it was time to put it all out there and battle with no regrets. Our battle began with Togekiss using Air Slash to flinch her Spiritomb, which made it go down. Cynthia decided to send in her own Togekiss, and I responded with Luxray, where it managed to get a discharge that caused paralysis. Cynthia predicted what I would do next, however, and switched out her Togekiss for her ace Pokemon, Garchomp. It absorbed Luxray's attacks, and then I knew I needed a clean switch to Floatzel, so I decided to let Luxray go down and then send in Floatzel to come out with an Ice Fang. Although it did decent damage, Garchomp was able to hold out and then knock out Floatzel. I responded with my own Garchomp, who I knew was faster, and managed to get off a Dragon Claw, finally taking out Cynthia's strongest Pokemon. Now it was time to deal with my Lodic, where I wanted to try flinching it with Air Slash. But my Lodic was ready for that, as it used Mirror Coat, dealing double the damage back to Togekiss. I knew I didn't have anything to do with this, so I decided to Max Revive Luxray and then use him to Thunder Fang my Lodic, and then Luxray finished its battle with Togekiss. Cynthia tried to use Lucario, but Garchomp was waiting for it and used Earthquake to OHKO it. Her final Pokemon was Roserade, where I sent in Infernape. The Pokemon that started it all was about to finish it. And with one flamethrower, Roserade went down and the battle was over. It has been a long road, and I finally reached the end and became the champion of the Sinnoh region. And now my name was hung in the Hall of Fame. This game will always be special to me, as it's what started me on this adventure to do so many amazing things, both personal and for this channel, letting me do so many fun things and meet amazing new people. All of this was thanks to my Nan, so I will continue to keep going and never give up for her. Until then, guys, I'll see you later.